Beautiful friends, welcome to this quick interview with Hagen Thiers and Pavel Stuchlik. We've gathered here today to discover the truth about EMFs because probably just like you, we've been wondering, there's so much conflicting studies and research, and is it dangerous? Is it not? How do we deal with this progressively strong issue in this world? And for this, I would like to welcome Hagen Thiers, who is a inventor of the year in European Union. He is the EMF expert that has a leading brand from research studies. I mean, this man, just to get on a call is a deep pleasure. So welcome, Hagen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pavel. Nice to be on the call with you and to educate you and your followings.
Thank you so much. So I guess the first question, what are EMFs and what are the dangers of EMFs in this world?
EMF stands for electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic fields. They are occurring to all of our mobile devices and through our modern technologies. So pretty much we are having the non-natural EMFs, which are nowadays considered and usually described as EMF, but also the world and the Earth itself has an EMF field. But especially now we are creating more and more own EMF fields, and those seem to be having an impact on our health.
Get you. And so tell me, when it comes to this whole subject, like what led you into this, as well as I know, how long have you been part of this whole movement of, uncovering the truth?
For me, that was a journey from my childhood. I was EMF sensitive, diagnosed as a child, was about 8 years old. And then my father, he was a natural path doctor, as you would say in the United States, and a mechanical engineer. And so he had kind of the two knowledge bases for biology and physics kind of combined there. And so he was looking for ways to protect me, and that set me on a lifetime journey, which I was pursuing for this. And it was really stunning for us at first when we encountered this, that there is some unpleasant health effects to us, which we cannot turn off. And that was something which was stunning us at the beginning. You have this Wi-Fi, so you have satellite, you have cell phone tower signals, you're having Bluetooth and Wi-Fi from neighbors and so on, which are all giving you health effects, but you have no ability to turn them off. And that's something which is really rare nowadays. And so this is what got me into this journey. My health problems with my father tried to solve, and that eventually led to us going to universities, going to professors and researchers, and trying to find a solution, what helps there. And when we didn't find something, that's when we started with all of those universities, professors, researchers, to actually start our own project of trying to find a solution there. And that was now, well, pretty much you could say 22 years ago. So I've been one of the longest persons in this industry. Many faces have come and gone since then.
Wow, that's incredible. And also, I assume, when you started, there was no 5G, right? And I think that's to me, that's one of the most dangerous ones. Would you say it's true?
For sure. For me, the 5G is the thing which is most concerning, and I'm still facing nowadays, of course, some issues. And for me, for instance, when I was moving the first time and traveling to Dubai, when I had the 5G exposure, it started for me off the same way that my sleeping disorder came back, and I couldn't sleep more than 1-2 hours a day. When I was exposed, and I was laying in bed, and just my heart rate and my brain waves wouldn't be actually calming down anymore, and I couldn't find rest. And it was not like obviously you were energized or that you felt amazing and wanted to stay up all night, but you were just not finding rest because your body was in a state of stress. And I still have this today. And yes, also the research is showing that you are having many effects from a non-thermal point of view. So meaning that it's not about temperature which is rising in your body, what is a very common, which is the most recognized problem from, for instance, phones. You're having also non-thermal effects. And the studies are showing that the higher the frequencies, that there's more non-thermal effects on our body the higher the frequency. And so therefore 5G, since it's using the highest frequency, can use already up to 40 gigahertz, which can be, so therefore, like for instance, Wi-Fi has 2.4 gigahertz usually what it's broadcasting. And now we're using with 5G already much more than that. And the higher the frequency is, the more disturbance on a non-thermal level it seems to cause in our body.
Got it. And it's actually something I can vouch for. So, for me, the way I discovered EMFs, I went on to Google back in 4 or 5 years ago as a biohacker. And in the biohacking space, there's a lot of talking about EMFs in general. But then if you Google it, it tells you that there is no harms, there's no dangers, and it's so conflicting. And then when I actually dive into it, I found over 6,000 studies proving that EMFs are dangerous, they're detrimental to our health. And, I wasn't electro hypersensitive, but for me, I was sensitive. I was mildly sensitive, which is, I assume, most of the population. And essentially, I'm a very healthy person, right? Exercise, eat well, sleep well. And I continued to have mild depression. I couldn't sleep. And I was feeling agitated, iffy, kind of like unexplained health issues, but all of my blood work, everything was perfect. And I actually hear this now time to time from people that are saying the same experience. And guess what it was? For the first time, I moved to Houston, Texas, which I've never lived in such a dense cities. And it was at the same time during which 5G towers were rolled out. And so I assume a lot of people are nowadays hurting. And so what would you say are some of the most prominent symptoms of EMFs exposure?
Of EMF exposure or 5G especially? What would you say?
I would say both. Yeah.
So, well, yes, there is a lot of studies on 5G. Unfortunately, there's not many studies, which was shocking to me that they rolled it out even through the Warner studies to even confirm the harmlessness, or even, did any kind of testing for the effects on the human bodies. And so I was with Waveguard, actually the first entity worldwide which were doing a study on human cells and 5G exposure. And what we found out there is, and this has been published and it has been 13 times repeated, the trial, and we found out that if you're replicating a wound healing process in your body, of the human body, that this process is prolonged by around 400%. So when you're cutting yourself, basically in a metaphor, you're cutting yourself in the finger in the kitchen, and you're having a 5G exposure versus you are having no EMFs inside your room. So you're basically just having the natural earth field there. Then your body takes 4 days instead of 24 hours to heal. And this was really stunning to me. And we repeated this many times, and results have been found the same. And that was the first study ever done on 5G, which was worldwide done. And we did that ourselves. And these results were truly mind-boggling for me. And so this is something what we can say already on a study basis, what is not good from 5G. Generally about EMFs, there is a lot of things which are correlated with stress. So adrenaline, brainwave changes. We also just had a study release about smartphone usage and depression from the university in Japan. And so it goes from this very mental health issues, but it goes also very fast into the subjects of DNA damage, cell death, and cancer causing. And so it's really hard to say where to start and where to stop, since we even have now already many times that the mobile phone industry has been sued, and they had been convicted for their phones causing cancer. And at the same time, there's so many things going on, like, for instance, the boundaries, which are not anymore kept, which is why they were banning just 2 weeks ago the iPhone 12 sales in France, because in real life exposure, 9 from 10 smartphones are exceeding the safety limits, which is something which we are very used to from many devices, right? When we're buying a car and they're telling us it takes like what, a gallon per 20 miles to drive, we know it's much more rather gonna be like 15 miles, which we're gonna drive. And the same seems to be the case with with phones, that in the real life scenarios, the dangers are just much more there than in some safety lab tastings.
Yeah, and I think what I find the most fascinating is that they are invisible. And I think that's the hardest part even for me, was to start believing this. And through you and through other research, I've discovered that it's kind of like toxins, would you say, where you're exposed to all of these EMFs, right, throughout the life, and you know, denser the city or denser the exposure, then more accumulative it is. Is that a good analogy if you think about EMFs, that you more you're exposed, further it can go?
It's I think, very easy to answer. It's rated from the World Health Organization as a carcinogen 0.2. So that means it's at the same level of unhealthy as smoking. It's possibly cancer causing. This is how it's being rated. And so there's no question about if it's good for us or not. And there's still right now even being done, well, how's that called in English? Sorry, my English is missing here. But there's a revaluation process of the status right now happening in the World Health Organization. That's what I meant to say. And so they're even now checking if they're putting it to not possibly cancer causing, but actually to most likely cancer causing.
Wow, that's incredible and also horrifying at the same time. What do you think of children? I mean, you've got kids, I've got a newborn right now, and I feel like is there any safety when it comes to children, or what can we do when it comes to that?
Protect them as much as possible. There is an amount of studies out which should be concerning us as parents to take some serious consideration of how can we limit the exposure to our children. And it's not for me at the point where I say it's safe for my kids to use technology like this, and I want them to take precautions, entry measurements, and there's a lot of possibilities to just make things less harmful and still comfortable, because this is in the end the thing, right? Smartphone has given us many incredible things, right? Tablets have been some nice gadgets for us, and everything has gotten so much more convenient. Nobody is arguing with that, right? It gives us great pleasure and comfort for many people. But the thing is, you can, for instance, to give one example, if I'm having children and they're hearing at night, they're hearing like a sleep story or a sleep lullaby or something. Well, instead of putting that up on YouTube and letting it stream, you can just push on the download button before or something, and then turn your phone off into the flight mode, and you let it play, and boom, suddenly you're not anymore bringing and having the EMF so much inside the children's proximity, and they can enjoy their evening story or something like that, right? So there's always some ways, by just being cautious, where you are able to reduce exposure. And especially when it comes to children, I'm very particular and very focused about taking these things very serious and doing them myself.
Got you. And I think to summarize it for our listeners, I think what I get from this is that EMFs are everywhere. They're not going anywhere. And so it's more about solution of how do we live within this carpeted world. And I think when I think of EMFs, I kind of go into this like visualization. You know, I step into my home and I see the appliances, you know, maybe there is TV, smart TV, especially anything that's smart, right? That's connected to Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi itself. Then we've got neighbors, and then also we've got electric cars. We've got satellites above us that are just increasingly, you know, rising. And so what I get from this is it's everywhere. But what do we do about this? And so I think if somebody started, you know, right now, what would you say are the main tips how to navigate it without, you know, buying anything? And then, of course, maybe we can also help people with how they can actually fully protect themselves or as much as possible.
Yes. So first, the 80 to 90% of our EMF exposure and problems are occurring from our own devices. It's really important to highlight that fact. The majority of problems are coming from our own devices, and that especially means our cell phone. So that's the first thing where to start on, that you are putting your phone into the flight mode as much as possible, or turn it off to reduce EMFs. It's not needed to have it all the time on the body, in the pockets near your reproductive organs, and to have it in the full functioning and pull there like 6 gigahertz every, like 200 times a second. It's not needed that. So this is like the first thing, put it off into flight modes as much as possible. The same is about your tablets, obviously, and your smart TVs or something what you might have like this, that you turn those functions off and turn them off at night. And for me, something which I find particularly important is turning off the Wi-Fi at night. Most of the Wi-Fi routers nowadays, they are having also already a 5G signal included. And that is something which I wouldn't like, and I cannot sleep when they're nearby with the same sleep efficiency. My sleep quality goes like to the bottom. And so those are to be turned off at night. For the convenience, I would suggest, just as a small hack, get yourself like a timer plug for your electricity, that this electric plug turns off during the nighttime. They might just cost you maybe $5 or something like that, but then your Wi-Fi router is always turning off on the set time, for instance, between 12 and 7 a.m. And so this is something what I would generally very much encourage, or otherwise just deplug it. And this is pretty much some of the best ways. And maybe also something to consider is just spending more time in nature and forests, where you're having natural shielded environments, or for instance, also in the ocean, or when you're going barefoot on the earth, you're also having grounding. And this is also something very helpful to help you protect, and also to actually reduce some of the damages which it has done.
Got you. Yeah, and I think from my personal experience, I mean, even now, I mean, I'm wearing a AirTube headset, so not using Bluetooth at all, minimizing it as much as possible, because I know that's also most people nowadays, they have it literally in their brain.
Yeah.
I also we turn off everything at night. When we fly, when we travel, we bring our key device with us, which is something that I've really wanted to talk about, because I know what's so amazing about you is you don't just you came here because of personal experience of wanting to help yourself, and that's really much like myself in our space of things, and that we're doing is like go in there, learn all about it, look for the solutions. And you've done it through major science. You've spent so much money on doing this for others, to help others. And so would you share a little bit about the groundbreaking technology that you've created, as well as the science behind it?
There was a lot of questions there at once. So let's see where we start here. So how did I get to this? Yes, through my personal story. Of course, my father pushed me there a bit and tried to find a solution. With 8 years, I didn't have so many ambitions yet. And then what really was something which was showing me what was really going on is that I went for 3 years, basically. I went into nature, and I went to Finland, and I spent there a lot of time in a wilderness cabins. So I was doing there a snowshoe hike for 2,500 kilometers. So like around, what is that? Maybe like 1,800 miles. And so I was gone there for multiple months, and there was no electricity, there was no mobile phone reception, there was no running water, there was not even artificial light. And it was, for me, it was a blast to have this detoxification. And I was, at this time, I was just 15 years old. So, and it was, for me, it was some of the most stunning experience which I did in my life. And it was something truly incredible. And when I came back from this journey, and I was entering the first time the area where there was reception again, my head almost exploded. I was EMF sensitive before, but what happened afterwards, after having this detoxification, was just on a different level. And obviously also always the mobile phone signal and strength was increasing at this time like crazy. This was a time when just the first iPhone was launched. So all of the technology was just evolving so fast at this point. And when I was a child, we had still this time where you were happy if you would have even, you know, 1/10 of a megabyte for download capacities. And just, you know, 5 years later, you had like 100 times that on your cell phone. And so, and this was the time where I was coming from, and where I was noticing, okay, this is not anymore tolerable. This is something which has to be done. I came back and I put my experience also with new efforts and my own philosophy together. Went to our old research partners again and started the inventing process. And so when we started with my father first producing prototypes in, like, what was that, around 2005, 6, we were experimenting. After like 2 years, we were changing the prototypes to work on liquid bases. And we were working with some people from the University of Milan in Italy on this. And we noticed, okay, we gave this prototypes to some clients of us, and which were from the electrosensitive community. And we asked them to give us some resumes and to test the device. And when we did this, then the people didn't want to give back the devices anymore. And we were like, no, this is for testing. We're doing studies here, you know, this was not easy to build, please return it. And they would just insist on keeping it, which was the first good indication that we found something which is working. And when I came back from this nature experience many years later, and I redone and started from a white paper with all of this knowledge, all of this experience, to really go deeper into this project, I found out that there was already studies now being done on something which is called depolarization. And that was really interesting, because this was done in the University of Athens, that they have tested that you can manipulate EMF fields, so radio waves, so something like, for instance, a cell phone communication signal, that you can spread that and change that out when you're letting it interact with different solutions. And they tested that with a variety of solutions, like glucose solutions and salt water solutions and other things. And they were able to reduce the effects on the biological organism quite tremendously. And also, what is a side effect is also that the field strength is being reduced. And so it was really nice to see that we have been working on something 5, 7, 8 years earlier already, and found in these prototypes things which were working for people. And then actually the universities confirmed and put a whole principle behind that. And that was something which was really actually industry changing, since normally there is not many ways to protect yourself. You can do shielding, which is pretty expensive if you're starting to do reconstruction in your house, or starting to do special paintings on things like that. There you can also cause more damage if you're doing it wrongly. So it has to be done precisely, and it can be expensive. And otherwise, you have just the option to limit exposure. And that means reduce your own devices, or you're running out of options and move to the nature, basically, like I did, into this 20 square meter wilderness cottage. And so this was not good enough. And so now we are having a university principle, which is depolarization, which is giving us another solution, which is basically depolarizing EMFs, which means their field strength is being reduced, and then the harmful effects are also reduced and minimized. And this is what I have invented then with our key devices from Waveguard, that we're having a technology which depolarizes EMF fields. And for instance, for 5G, that can be up to 80%, which is being tested by the most technical institutions in the world. And we have also done then the double-blind studies and other medical studies on the effects on the body, what is left from the radiation after the field strength has been reduced.
Yeah, no, I think this is incredible. And you know what I love about it. So I mean, there's 3 different types, right? There's a personal version, which is the one that you know, me and my partner, we travel with everywhere we go, and have it in our hotels. And yes, right there. Then there's a home version, which covers a solid 3-4 bedroom house. And then there's also a max version, which covers an entire, you know, either a massive house or it could be a school, it could be any corporate high rise. And that's, by the way, that's kind of been my mission now. When I discovered this and when I found out, it's like, how do we bring this to schools? How do we bring this to grocery stores? Because it works on food, it works on water, it works on pets, animals. And so it's finally, you know, a solution to how do we live with EMFs rather than, you know, completely going without, which is no longer possible because of the satellites anyway. And so I think this is fantastic. You know, at NOAA Aeon, NOAA means movement. Aeon is all or none, and we're unifying this world with these cutting edge tools. And basically, what we did is we've designed a empowerment team that is here for the greatest good of the whole. That is doing EMF consultations at no cost. So basically, you guys, who have been listening to, this was a quick insert and kind of a welcome into what we're doing. And what's going to happen, so you just click on the link below and you set up a time with one of our empowerment team members that are literally going to get on a call with you. They're going to walk you through what are your appliances, homes, your Wi-Fi, your neighbors, and they're going to help you, minimize, so you understand what to do, as well as give you the right solution based on your personal, you know, life situation as to how can you take the charge of this important and urgent matter. So that all comes for free. There is no strings attached. This is our mission. And Hagen, I want to thank you so much for plugging in and spending your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you all.